All right, fellas, today we're gonna go old school, and I mean old school. I've actually seen some guys make some comments about this, about some of the younger guys might not even know who Buck Perry is. I feel like I've done some of this on my channel before. If I have, it's been a while and it's worth refreshing. If I haven't, I should have by now. Anyway, what I want to show you guys is laying right here on the counter. This right here is gold. Can you see that? Ooh, that little group of books right there, that is bass fishing gold. And we're gonna cover that today, right now. All right, guys, thank you every single one of y'all for being back here on the channel. Got my spectacles on because I got my books here. We're gonna go over some stuff today. This is gonna get pretty deep, and I don't know that I can do it all in one video, but I'm gonna try because I'm just gonna highlight it. I will be honest, doing a little short review for this video right here has actually got me thinking, you know, Thanksgiving's coming up and the holidays, could do some reading right here. This is all of the home study books together. These are called Buck Perry's Guidelines for Fishing Success. It's all about spoon plugging. And for you boys that don't know what spoon plugging is, that is something that has been outdated, no longer exists. They were a metal bait, kind of looked like a spoon. They were hollowed out. There was all different shapes, but they were basically made for trolling, so like a crankbait. I looked to see when these books were published. I don't see a published date. I see a copyright date of 1981. I can guarantee you that most of the studying and research was done in the late 60s through the 70s from Buck Perry himself. And he's got some sources in here that he references, but for the most part, it was off of his experience. And this dude was on top of his game without a shadow of a doubt, long before any of us thought about catching a bass that are watching this video right now. Most fishermen that are worth their salt know what these books are that I'm talking about. Many of you watching this video may have a collection sitting in your house. I encourage you to do as I'm doing. Bring old Buck out of the closet, resurrect him, and let's read. There's many things in here that were so true, and how this guy figured this out, I don't know. I don't. The lake breakdowns and stuff that I do that you guys really, really seem to like, man, I'm basing all that seasonal pattern and seasonal movement off of this guy right here. This is the guy that I'm doing it off of. I think that some of his ideas are not quite as tried and true as I once believed they were. Like I know that some reservoirs, some bodies of water, fish don't migrate 10 miles throughout their seasonal patterns. There are some lakes and some reservoirs, depending on how they lay up, that their seasonal pattern movement may not be more than a half a mile. They might be able to winter right here, move a quarter of a mile, pre-spawn, another quarter of a mile, spawn. Maybe not even that. They might be able to do it all in a half mile. But then there are other bodies of water where they move miles and miles, and his system still works. His breakdown of different kinds of lakes and reservoirs still hold true. It's what you guys hear when you hear me talk about highland reservoirs, lowland reservoirs, natural lakes, rivers. All these things are encountered, and they're in these books. Like, he breaks them all down for you. And so he gives you a very detailed, elementary understanding of fish habitat, and their migration. I guarantee you there's guys right now on the Elite Series, pro fishermen, that don't know the difference. If you ask them, hey, what's the difference in cover and structure? There's guys that will not be able to answer that question correctly on the Elite Series. There's guys on the BPT, guarantee you, will not answer that correctly. The difference is, in these books, you can learn, I'll give you a little cheater, cover and structure. Structure is the dam. Structure is a point. The point going out to the lake. Structure is the river channel, inside bend. The transition of where the bend comes back to the flat. That's all structure. Cover is the rock, big rock, in the middle of the bend, where it tapers down to smaller boulders and gets down to pea gravel as it goes out to the flat. That's cover. Cover is hydrilla that grows out on the point. Cover is the trees that were left standing on Sam Rayburn out in the river channels and out off a ditch or maybe even on a flat. That's cover. Structure is more powerful than cover. Structure will always be more powerful than cover because it controls migration. It controls the migration of the fish throughout their seasonal patterns. The cover just happens to be what's there that you catch them out of. Now, cover is extremely strong. Hydrilla, for example, can make one piece of structure with hydrilla much better than the exact same type of structure at the other end of the lake without that type of cover. No doubt, it can. But the migrational movement of the fish itself is controlled by the structure that is within that impoundment, whether it be man-made, whether it be natural lakes, or whether it be a river run system. You see patterns across the country depending on what type of bodies of reservoirs they are. So like natural lakes. So this is a great example. This is why you see boys like the Johnston brothers excel in Florida, even though they're from Canada. How does somebody who's a smallmouth guru in Canada has so much success in Florida, right? Chris Johnston's very first quote, quote, pro event that I'm aware of, I think this is right, Chris might correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure, 2016 FLW Tour. Believe it was his and Corey's very first quote, quote, pro event, right? $100,000 tournament. It's actually the one that I won on Okeechobee. Chris finished second or third in the event. Third, I think. Still, crushed them throughout the entire event, right? 175 boats, a lot of pros on the FLW Tour. He comes down from Canada and has that success. How? If you just look at it from the book, you're like, he's from Canada, he's a smallmouth fisherman. It's because they're natural lakes in Canada, so that they relate very much like the ones in Florida. And a lot of their natural lakes kind of have a lot of largemouth, and so they do a lot of grass fishing. Point being is that the similarities of the two, right? You see it, anglers who are from the Ozark region go to the Appalachians and fish places like Del Hollow in Tennessee, Highland reservoirs in Missouri, Highland reservoirs in East Tennessee. Same thing. They have lots of things in common. Same types of migrational movements, which tend to be the same seasonal patterns. You kind of get the gist. All right, so back to Buck Perry. I'm just telling you some of the strengths that you can learn from this. This could be one of the best YouTube videos you've ever watched. If you're really into bass fishing and you really take this serious, I know you guys can find these things online. I don't know where. Maybe I'll look and I'll put a place down below where you guys can get a link. We ought to sell these things at Tackle Warehouse. They ought to sell them in every tackle store in America. As much money as we spend on crankbaits and stuff, this books of knowledge are just worth their weight in gold. And like I said, I'm looking forward to going through them again. Volume 1 is very basic. It's the introduction to basic movements. This is volume 1, the red book. It's going to go over lots of things. Now, I haven't looked over these, but I'm pretty sure I know them by heart. I think I've read them 2 or 3 times sometime in my life, but I guarantee I haven't read them in the last 10 or 15 years. Dude, I've read these things so much. Look, I got highlights and notes in them. Like, I took this thing serious back in the 90s. Like, let's get this thing done. But introduction to basic movements is going to go over basically the seasonal patterns, basic movements. So you're going to have a spring. I think he breaks it down into pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. So there's basically 3 seasonal patterns within the spring. And then you're going to have summer, fall, and winter. And so throughout all those, covered in this one right here, that's volume 1. Volume 2, controls and tools. I will say that there is some stuff here that's dated, guys. And when you get into this, like I said, you're going to be reading the term spoon plugging, spoon plugging, spoon plugging over and over and over. And that's going to get into some of his controls and tools. Some of this stuff is going to be outdated, okay? So if you want to skip over some of it, it bores you a little bit. I get it. I know that I've gone through some of it. I read it. I try to stay as hooked up as I can because some of it still kind of makes sense and lines up with today, but there's going to be some of this, and volume 2 may be part of that. But then we get to volume 3, and we get right back to structure, breaks, and break lines, right? Back to the structure. So this is gonna have a lot of stuff about how to read maps, how to read water, how to read structure, what different kinds of structure there are. I do think that this may be the one that goes into the different types of reservoirs, typical structure situations. I wish there was like a glossary to these things, but there's not. So I can kind of glaze over and tell you guys what they are. But this one's going to go into probably different kinds of bodies of water and things like that, just like what I was talking about. So that's in volume 3, structures, breaks, and break lines. Volume 4 is about weather and water. So this is going to go into different water temperatures, weather conditions, and how they affect fish and how they relate to the structure and cover which they're in. This is a really good one too. It talks about muddy water, clear water, all kinds of different things with different water temperatures. Seasonal guidelines are in here. This is a great book. This was probably one of my favorite books, was chapter 4, or volume 4. Volume 5, presentation of lures. Once again, volume 5 may not be your favorite, may not fit right into 2022 with some of the stuff that we have going. Dude, I'm telling you, this guy was so sharp. Volume 6, lake types. Bingo. Right here, this is it. So this is kind of, volume 6 is into the lake types. This is the one that really goes into flatland reservoirs, lowland reservoirs. Here they are right here, the different types, and then how they fish, right? Like what characteristics they have that are the same that you can relate to, right? So a lowland reservoir in Sam Rayburn, South Texas, what it has in common with, say, lowland reservoirs over on the East Coast in South Carolina. And guys, they're there, they exist. Sam Rayburn has a lot of things in common with Santee Cooper, right? So the biggest bag that I ever caught in my entire life was 32 something, largemouth, 32 plus. And I caught it on my very first time I'd ever seen Santee Cooper in my entire life. 5 days or 5 fish, sight fishing. It had a lot to do with my experience down in Texas and the way that they relate the same. There's just a lot of feel to it, right? Like they have a lot of characteristics that are very much alike. The fish, very much alike, and they bed fish, very much alike. So their spawning rituals have things in common. And I guarantee you there's things in common with Santee Cooper and Sam Rayburn throughout all courses and all seasons of their migrational movements, whether it be winter or summer. There's going to be some things there that are the same. So definitely one of my favorites, volume 6. Volume 7 is the very last book in the category of the home study series by Buck Perry. It is covering mapping and interpretation. It goes over contour lines, how to read different contour lines, whether you're studying maps, whether it's your Navionics chip on your GPS, which these guys didn't have. How to kind of read water just by looking at the surface, where the contour lines might possibly be, where submerged roadbeds, things of that might be. He talks about all these things that you might be able to find, whether it be man-made structure like a roadbed or whether it be a creek channel bend that might be kind of hidden and not as obvious. If you guys are on a body of water that doesn't have Navionics mapping, right? There's still lots of that stuff. And you guys might be in a boat that doesn't have a GPS. So for all you guys that think that GPSs and mapping and all the great equipment that we've got available to us today are all that you need, I can promise you that little Buck Perry, going back on Buck Perry this winter, and if you haven't read him, guys, it's incredible. It's really, really, really good stuff. And it's so impressive that he did all this so long ago. So like I said, I don't know if I touched on these books. If I did, if I made a video years ago in the last couple of years, I probably barely touched on it. I wanted to make a full video about Buck Perry. I'm going to lay these beside my bed, and I'm going to read a little bit of this winter as well. Hopefully I can get some of it done over Thanksgiving. So guys, as always, I appreciate every single one of y'all being here. Just trying to teach y'all the best I can. These are some of the life lessons right here. These are blocks, building blocks, to make you a better bass fisherman here on the Home and Fishing channel. As always, bump that like, hit that subscribe. And until next time, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you.